Hi everyone, in this video we'll talk about how AWS Service Control Policy Inheritance will work. So there's another video that I have created that will show you guys how to enable service control policies, their prerequisite and the behaviors of it and the limitations. So if you want to get a base idea on what SCP is, please watch that video. I'll put the link in the description and at the end of the video itself. So in this one, we'll talk about how what are the two types of AWS service control policies and how the inheritance of each of them will behave. So this is an article which I have written. You can find the link to the article in the description as well. So I will use this article in order to explain this concept. So there are two types of service control policies: allow SCPs and deny SCPs. So that is based on the effect of the policy. So SCP is based on how it is, what the type of the policy, the inheritance of the particular policy will be different. So let's check the allow SCP type. So this is an organization architecture of our AWS organization with root OU in the top. We have two high-level OUs, prod and dev. Then we have secondary level OUs, app1, app2 in both under prod and dev OUs. And at the last level, we have our AWS accounts. So in the allow SCP, we have 6 SCPs. Okay, SCP1 provide full access to all AWS services. SCP2 provide full access to EC2, S3 and RDS services. SCP3 provide full access to EC2 and S3 service. SCP4 provide full access to S3 service. SCP5 provide full access to AWS SNS service. And SCP6 provide full access to RDS service. So let's see how each SCP attach at each level. So SCP1 is attached at root level, root OU, and SCP2 attached at prod OU, and again up to OU under the prod OU and to account B. And SCP3 is attached at the F1 OU under prod OU. SCP4 attached at account A. SCP5 attached at F1 OU under the dev OU. And SCP6 attached at account C. And again we have SCP1 attached at dev OU and F2 OU under dev and account D. So in the allow SCP type, one thing you have to mention is, so allow SCP, but it does like it allows what services should be allowed in the AWS account, right? So as if you have already watched my earlier video, you know SCP is like the strongest mechanism, the most powerful policy type that you can control even the access provided by IAM or AWS SSO permission sets. So SCP is defined using SCPs we can define which services and what actions of each service will be available at the AWS account level. So the AWS allow SCP type, if you need to allow a specific service, the key factor is that you need to have that particular AWS service allowed at each level of the hierarchy leading to the particular account. That means if you want to allow S3 service at a particular AWS account, you need to allow S3 service at each level of the attached SCPs throughout the hierarchy to that account. So keeping that in mind, let's see how the AWS account mentioned here will behave based on the attached allow type SCPs. So based on this SCP diagram, the end result of each AWS account mentioned in here, AWS account A, B, C and D, will be as this. So at AWS account A, only S3 service will be allowed. At account B, only EC2, RDS and S3 service will be allowed. At account C, no AWS services will be allowed. And account D, all AWS services will be allowed. So let's see why this is. So keep in mind, if you are using AWS allow SCP type, you need to have the required services that you need to be allowed mentioned at each level of the hierarchy leading to that particular account. So keeping in that mind, let's take the account A to analyze. So if you check the account A, the leading pathway to the particular account is this particular path. So you go from root OU, you go to prod OU to F1 OU, and then to account A. So if you check at each level of the hierarchy, we have SCP1 attached at root OU, SCP2 attached at prod OU, SCP3 attached at F1 OU under prod OU, and SCP4 attached at the account A level. Okay, so let's analyze at each SCP. So at root OU level, we have all the AWS accounts, AWS services allowed. So that means nothing is denied. So that at this particular point, up until this particular point, everything is allowed. And then we go to the next point, next level. The high level OU, the prod OU, we have SCP2 attached, which is allowing only EC2 service, S3 service, and the RDS service. That means, except for these three services, all the other AWS services are denied. So meaning of this particular SCP attachment is, so there's no any other SCPs attached at this particular moment. So only SCP2 is attached, and in there only EC2, S3 and RDS is allowed. That means except for these services, all the other AWS services, though there are 250 plus services, AWS services at the moment. So except for these three, all the other services are denied by default from this particular SCP. So that means at this particular point, only these three services are allowed, and no other services will be allowed this point from at this level. So we go to the next level at F1 OU. At F1 OU, we have SCP3 attached, which is allowing EC2 and S3. So that means at this particular level, we only have EC2 and S3 service allowed. We are also going to deny the RDS service which came here up until here is going to be denied from this point onwards, because RDS service is not allowed in here. Then we go to our final level, our account level, which is the account A. At account level A, we have SCP4 attached, which is allowing AWS S3 service. So that means at this point onwards, except for AWS S3 service, all the other services are denied, because when come to this point, even this EC2 service has been removed from the allowed SCP, right? So that's why only at AWS account A, we have AWS S3 service allowed. So because this is the S3 service is the only service that is allowed at each level of the hierarchy throughout this particular flow leading to that AWS account. S3 is allowed here, 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 and here. So leading to the particular hierarchy, leading to the account, at each level of the hierarchy, the S3 service is the one which is allowed. So remember, in the AWS allowed SCPs, whichever the service you need to be allowed have to be allowed at each level of the hierarchy leading to the particular account. Hope you understand that one. So let's take account B. So account B, we have EC2, RDS, and S3 services, right? So let's see. This is the pathway to account B. Root OU, prod OU, up to OU, and account B. So let's see the SCPs attached. We have SCP1 attached at root OU, allowing all the services. And at prod OU, we have EC2, S3, and RDS. So that means except only at this level, only these three services will be allowed from at this level. And at up to OU, we have again EC2, S3, and RDS. That means when we come to this level also, we have the same three services allowed, common services mentioned. And account B, we have again same SCP2 attached, which allowing EC2, S3, and RDS. That means at account B, we are allowing only EC2, RDS, and S3 services. All the other services are denied, because throughout the pathway for the pathway leading to the account, at each level of the hierarchy, we only have RDS, S3 and EC2 allowed. We have it's mentioned here, here, here because same SCP attached. And root OU we have the SCP1 attached, which allowing all the services. By naturally that means these three services are allowed at this mentioned in this particular point. So at each level we have these three services allowed. So finally at account B we are allowing these three services only. Let's go to account C. So account C, if you check the leading pathway, I hope this from this point we will get the concept very clearly for you guys. So account C, we having this is the pathway: root OU, dev OU, app1 OU, and the account C. So this is the path. So let's see the SCPs. So at root OU we have the SCP1 attached, allowing all these services. At dev OU we again have the SCP1 attached, allowing all the services. At app1 OU under dev OU we only have SCP5 attached, which allowing only SNS service. That means at this particular level we are only allowing SNS service. All the other services are, that means by default, denied, right? Let's go to account C, the last level. We have SCP6 attached, and that is allowing RDS service. But the point, as I mentioned, if a particular service need to be allowed, that need to be mentioned at each level of the hierarchy leading to that account if it is a allowed type SCP. So that means RDS, although RDS is allowed here using the SCP6, RDS is not mentioned at this particular level. It is mentioned at dev OU because SCP1 is allowing all the services. That means RDS is by default allowed. And SCP1 is again attached at root OU. That means RDS is again allowed in here. So this level we have RDS allowed and mentioned and allowed. But at immediate hierarchy level, at app1 OU level, we do not have RDS allowed. So although we have RDS allowed here, since we do not have RDS allowed in this particular level, RDS service is not going to be allowed at AWS account C. And the next one, at this level we have SNS allowed, right? And up until this level SNS is also allowed. But unfortunately at account C we do not have SNS allowed using the SCP6. That means SNS service also not allowed. So as a result, at account C none of the services will be allowed. I hope you got the point of which I mentioned. In allow SCP type, the required services which you need to be allowed have to be mentioned at each level of the hierarchy. So none of the common services are, none of the same services as mentioned at each level of the hierarchy, none of the services will be allowed at account C. So last one, account D. Let's take the hierarchy. So root OU, dev OU, app2 OU and account D. So account D, it's allowing all the services. Why is that? Because at each level same SCP is attached. SCP1 allowing all the services. So this doesn't need to be same SCP. So it can be different SCPs, but need to allow same services. So this can be SCP 8, this can be SCP 9, this can be SCP 12, doesn't matter. But if it's allowing the same services throughout the hierarchy, that service will be allowed. So at account D we have the same SCP attached within the having the same content. That means all the services allowed in here using this SCP1. In here also all services are allowed using the SCP1. All services are allowed using the SCP1 and all services are allowed using the SCP1. So as a result, since all the services are allowed at each level of the hierarchy, so account D will be having access to all the services. Again, one key point, does not need to be the same SCP attached at each level. It just have to be the same services allowed. Okay. So this can be SCP 9, this can be SCP 12, this can be SCP 20. Doesn't matter. Okay. So I hope you guys got understood the allow SCP, how allow SCP inheritance will work and the key concept. So let's go to the next type, the deny SCP. So deny SCPs are going to work in a different manner. So in deny SCPs, like allow SCPs, we don't need to deny required services that we need to deny at each level. We just have to mention at a particular relevant point only. From that point downwards, that services will be denied by default. So this is how deny SCP works. So allow SCPs, that we need to mention at each level what are the services we need. We have to mention it at each level using the allow SCPs if you are going to use allow SCPs. But if you are going to use deny SCP type and you want to deny a particular service, you don't need to mention that deny statements at each level of the hierarchy throughout the leading to the particular required account. You just have to mention at required level, and that point onwards all the downwards all the services, mentioned services, will be denied. So let's analyze and see. And another key point to remember is that in AWS, deny takes precedent over allow. Doesn't matter how many allow statement you have. If you have one single deny statement, explicit deny statement, the explicit deny statement will take precedence. Okay. So in this scenario we have 4 SCPs. SCP-1 allowing all AWS services. SCP-2 denies EC2, S3 and RDS service. SCP-3 denies CloudWatch service. SCP-4 denies SNS service. Let's see which SCPs are attached at which level. So if you check the architecture, throughout at each level of the diagram, we have SCP-1 attached. See, at each level, at each OU and each AWS account, we have SCP-1 attached. Okay, so having the SCP-1 allow all services attached at each level, we are going to attach the deny SCPs because we are going to use deny SCPs to control our services. So we have SCP-2 attached at prod OU level, and we have SCP-3 attached at account B, and we have SCP-4 attached at app1 OU under the OU. Okay, let's see as a result what are the services that's going to be allowed or denied at each of these AWS accounts. So AWS account A is going to allow all the AWS services except for EC2, S3 and RDS. AWS account B going to allow all the services except for EC2, S3, RDS and CloudWatch. AWS account C going to allow all AWS services except for SNS. And AWS account D is going to allow all AWS services. Let's analyze and see how this has happened. So again, let's say account A. So account A hierarchy is going to be like this: root OU, prod OU, app1 and account A. Okay, and we have AWS SCP-1 which allows all services at attach each level. But when we check the hierarchy, we can see at the prod OU level we have SCP-2 attached, right? And SCP-2 denies EC2, S3 and RDS. So that means from this point onwards down, it denies all the EC2, S3 and RDS services. It doesn't matter how many allow statements you have at this point onwards, it's going to deny these 3 services because we have explicit deny statements mentioned in this particular SCP-2. So as a result, although we have SCP-1 allowing all services attached at this level, we still going to be denying these 3 services. And same applies to this one. Although we have SCP-1 attached at account A, since we have SCP-2 attached this particular higher level, from that point onwards all these 3 services are going to be denied, and that inheritance comes up to this level itself. So as a result, we are going to deny EC2, S3 and RDS service at account A. All the other services will be allowed except for these 3 services. So I hope you got the understanding. So in order to deny statement weak, we don't have to mention deny statement at each and every level of the hierarchy. We just have to mention at the required level, and it will automatically apply inherited or applied. So applied, the actual keyword is the inherited. So it will be inherited by all the objects underneath that particular object throughout the hierarchy. So let's check the account B. Account B, So this is the hierarchy: root OU, prod OU, up to OU, and account B. And we have again SCP1 attached at each level, allowing all the services. But at prod OU, this particular hierarchy level, we have again SCP2 attached, EC2, S3 and RDS services are denied in here. And that means this particular point onwards, these three services are denied. So this EC2, S3 and RDS is denied in here, and it is inherited by this policy will be inherited by here itself. That means EC2, S3 and RDS services are denied. And furthermore, we have SCP3 attached at account B, again denying CloudWatch services. That means apart from the deny inheritance that carried throughout here through the SCP2, we have CloudWatch also denied. As a result, EC2, S3, RDS and CloudWatch, all the four services will be denied at account B. So all the services will be allowed except for EC2, S3 and RDS and CloudWatch. So that this denied statement inheritance comes up until here. So account C. At account C, again same principle applies. This is the pathway, and in the pathway we have allow statements allow SCP services attached at each level. But at F1 OU level, immediate level to the account C OU level, we have SCP4 attached denying SNS. That means at its account C level, the SNS service is denied. So that inheritance come here. And account D, throughout the hierarchy, we don't have any deny statements. We only have the allow statements allowing all the services. That means at account D, all the services are allowed. So I hope you guys understand how the deny SCPs work and how the inheritance work in deny SCPs. So if you have any questions regarding these two SCP types and the inheritance, please mention in the comment section. And just to give an in-depth idea without just to give you an in-depth idea. So if I go back to allow SCP, I mentioned that in the allow SCPs you guys need to have the allow SCP allow statement mentioned at each level, right, in order to make sure that service is allowed. So if you take this particular level, we have EC2, S3 and RDS allowed from here, right? But in here we only have EC2 or S3. But that means implicitly we are denying RDS, right? From this point onwards, that means there's a deny statement, implicit deny statement. So that's why it's denied from here. So implicit deny statements are also powerful. So you guys need to understand the implicit deny statement as well. So implicit denies, explicit denies and allow statements. So allow statements and it's are there, and implicit deny statements are there. By default, everything is implicitly denied in AWS. So in order to make sure a particular service is allowed, you need to have a specific allowed statements. That's why I said, actually not me, AWS states that allowed statements need to be mentioned at each level if you are using allowed statement type. So get that into your mind, how the implicit denies, explicit denies and allow statements are working. So I hope you guys are clarified in the allow SCPs and deny SCPs are working. If last point, if I analyze the very last point, if you guys got confused, you guys can keep it aside for the moment and understand the earlier concept which I mentioned. I will be doing another video on in-depth analysis of how policies work in an upcoming video on IAM policies, boundaries and SCPs all together. So in there I will talk about more in-depth implicit statements, explicit statements, both allow and deny. So till that video, if you have any questions, please mention in the comment section. I will try my best to answer you guys. And if you find this video to be helpful, please share with others whom you guys think that will be helpful for them as well. and please like and share and subscribe. Thank you everyone. Have a nice day.